Hello and welcome back to another Daily Top 10's Top 10 video. Today we're pointing fingers at you and your disgusting diet. Because, come on, what the hell were you thinking? Number 10. Cheap syrups. Around the world, especially in Europe, kids have grown up with a hatred of maple syrup, but only because they've never actually tasted the real deal. In many parts of America and Canada, the real deal is abundantly available and cheap, but that's not the case elsewhere, leading many parents to buy cheaper substitutes that they think are just as good. But these substitutes often consist of nothing more than sugar, caramel flavoring, and food additives. They are sticky and sweet, but they are definitely not maple syrup. So always read the label. Avoid anything that doesn't specifically state maple syrup, followed by either grade A or grade B. If you haven't tried the real deal, you are missing out.
In North America, probably thousands of years ago, the Native Americans realized that there was this sweet water coming out of the trees at certain times of the year, and they developed means of collecting this. And then they realized that if they could boil it, it would get even sweeter.
Number 9. Margarine. There's a famous email down the rounds that says margarine is basically plastic and is essentially cancer in a tub. Most of this is laughably wrong, but this stuff is far from healthy. Producing it is a complex science, and witnessing the process may put you off eating it ever again. Created as a cheap butter substitute, margarine has since become an industry of its own. But now that it's been linked to everything from heart problems to cellulite, as well as decreased fertility and increased insulin levels, its days could be numbered. And to be honest, we won't be sad to see it go.
What is this?
Oh my god.
What is that?
That's plastic.
That is crazy. Tell me that ain't plastic. Now, look over here on this side. Nothing. Nothing. How butter's supposed to look.
Number 8. Fake butter. Common in the United States, this substance finds its ways onto a number of processed foods, but is mainly used on microwave popcorn, and also found at cinema concession stands. This is a gooey, hot, fatty liquid that tastes nothing like butter and may just kill you. Not only is it basically pure saturated fat, but it also contains a chemical that can cause a fatal illness known as popcorn lung. And this is not caused by actually eating the popcorn, but simply by breathing in those creamy, fake buttery fumes. Simply put, it'd be safer injecting real butter into your veins while smoking crystal meth and poking a muscle-bound biker with a very pointy stick.
Turns out the industry knew about the dangers for decades, but covered it up. Even when workers started dying, the company swore the chemical was safe for consumers, though, that it was only an occupational health hazard. In fact, they even had ads with Orville Redenbacher telling consumers to breathe deep.
Number 7. Street food. One of the best ways to experience a new culture is to tuck in some street food, but it's also a great way to become acquainted with the local bacteria. New Delhi is the perfect example of this. Food hygiene isn't always on the top of their list of priorities, but the locals don't mind as they can handle it generally. The same can't be said for tourists, which is where the term Delhi belly comes from. It's the same pretty much anywhere you go. Many of the vendors are unlicensed, there to make a quick buck today and be gone tomorrow. However, the same doesn't apply to official food festivals and even night markets, so don't let us put you off street food altogether. Number 6. Fake supplements. Many of your vitamins and supplements may not be what you think. Even the big name brands have been known to sell something that isn't on the label. In fact, many studies have been conducted, showing that what is on the label is not always what's in the bottle. One study in the UK tested 50 supplements labeled as ginseng, 7 of which didn't contain any of the herb. One of these actually contained a banned stimulant, which is not as rare as you might think. And when it comes to extract strengths, concentrations, and other such details listed to prove the potency of the supplement, it seems that some supplement makers are just making it up. Number 5. Vitamin D. Our bodies basically turn sunlight into vitamin D, an essential nutrient. But what if you don't get enough sun? then you won't get enough vitamin D and could need a supplement. But how do you go about bottling sunshine? Most vitamin D comes from sheep's wool, and from a chemical called lanolin in particular. This waxy substance is secreted by sheep and gets trapped in the wool. That wool is then rolled and squeezed, with this stinky, oily substance leaking out. It is that substance that gets turned into vitamin D supplements, which basically means that sheep sweat could stop you from getting rickets.
Secreted by the sheep's skin, it continuously collects on the wool so that by the time the fleece is harvested, it makes up between 15 and 25% of the total weight of freshly cut wool. The process was developed to refine what we now know as lanolin.
Number 4. Non-cheesy cheese. If you're not lactose intolerant and you're not vegan, then there's a good chance that most of your favorite food contain cheese. Besides kissing and surrendering, cheese is something that the French do better than anyone else. But they would be horrified if they discovered just what Americans, Brits, and many other nationalities are doing with it. A lot of the cheese you eat is not actually cheese. That includes everything from cheese analog, a harmless, tasteless, and cheap substance used to bulk out the cheese on takeaway and frozen pizzas, to cheese slices, most of which is actually not allowed to be labeled as cheese. It sounds delicious when you discover that the powdery substance found in packages of grated cheese is made from wood pulp, which is basically recycled paper.
It's not bad, but it's what we call in France the cheese for kids.
It tastes like cheese for 1 second, and then it does not.
It has a bit of bitterness to it, but very, very light.
Doesn't it feel a bit smoked?
It tastes milky.
It tastes like the cream you put in the coffee, like half and half.
Number 3. Flavorings. We all know that artificial flavorings are bad for us. But do you know how bad? Depending on the flavor, these substances can consist of dozens of chemicals, with an ingredient list that looks more like a science project than an FDA-approved food product. Some argue that natural flavorings are just as bad, and they often point to castoreum when making their point. This substance is secreted by a beaver's anal gland and can be classed as natural. It has caused quite a stir in the last few years, but the truth is that it's rarely used in food production anymore. Still, there are a few equally disgusting natural ingredients that are still common.
So natural foods are just a series of chemicals, and Danny's able to copy the chemical profile of any given flavour. Time to see if I can guess what he's cooking up today.
Have a smell of that.
Oh, cut grass.
Does that smell sort of floral to you?
Yeah, it does. Rosy. Oh, Jesus.
Number 2. Food colorings. If you have ever tucked into chicken tikka curry or have enjoyed a bright red sweet, then you have probably eaten a sun-dried, crushed insect known as cochineal extract. This bright red coloring often hides behind the E number E120 and is also known as carmine. It is extracted from the cochineal insect, which mainly grows on the side of a prickly pear cacti in Peru and the Canary Islands. For many years, food manufacturers were allowed to list this as a natural ingredient, but it has since been found to cause allergic reactions in most countries and now must be listed under its full name.
Cochineal bugs are tiny, just 5 millimeters long. But it's what's inside them that matters.
Esta es la sangre de la cochinilla.
So it's the blood? Cochineal bugs are one of the very few insects that produce red carminic acid in their bodies.
And number 1, faked foods. If there's a demand for a product, there will always be a fake version of it out there. Fake medicines have made it into pharmacies and hospitals. Fake electronics have made it into suppliers. And fake food and drink have been sold off in grocers. Spices are the most commonly faked, particularly in saffron, which is often simply dyed turmeric. But everything from big brand alcohol to honey has been faked, with the former often containing dangerous methanol-laced homegrown alcohol and the latter containing a simple sugar syrup. It has never been more important to pay attention to where you buy your food, as well as to what you're buying and who you're buying it from. And that's all we have for right now. Thanks for watching. And remember, it's our duty to entertain and yours to subscribe.